All right, we're live here, I believe. Right now on Facebook Live, SWH podcast here. I hope we're live. Seems like we are. So maybe get a message from somebody letting us know that they could see us and we're live here on Facebook. First time doing it through Facebook. Having some technical difficulties with YouTube. GT, you go away for a few weeks, you come back, and all of a sudden your computers aren't working anymore. So apologize to everybody for that.
Yeah, Facebook's good. We'll just give it a minute or two. And
yeah, we're hearing some people here. So letting us know we are live. All right, great to see. Thank you guys for letting us know.
Awesome.
Yeah, so back to business here. Back to Long Island GT after a long trip in Indiana. And I feel like I should have a beer in my hand right now instead of a glass of water, just giving a little congrats for a job well done. Real excited to have gotten through that tournament. And I think we did a pretty good job, not to pat ourselves on the back too much.
Yeah, our entire staff did a phenomenal job, from scorekeepers on up to tournament directors and, obviously our officials. And, we've discussed this a bunch of times, but the staff and the facilities just did a phenomenal job. Without them, this event wouldn't have been, so as successful as it was. They were just on top of things. People who were there saw that, and just hats off to them. It was great.
Yeah, let's go through some names here because, just like a good teammate, you always want to give credit to everybody else. It's all about the assists here. Everyone assisted here to make this a great tournament. So go through our officials here: Rob Coggin, Steve Renault, Mike Sarter, Danny Bethman, Terry Ferrara, Dave Cannon, Aaron Evans, Vic Zuniga, Sean Keogh, Corey Borden, Brian Baumgarten, Eric Contino, and Don Moffitt came in for the last weekend. And then, of course, Tyler True and Denny DeGrip, who do a little bit of both. Some tournament directing, some reffing, some scorekeeping. So great job by all the Zebras out there. And then our scorekeepers, Matty Dunton, Will Shepard, Hunter from down in Florida came down for part of the tournament, I know. And, Wilfredo Leon and his son Evan were a big help. His daughter Joyce helped out in the merchandise. It was a family affair for the Leons. Chris Trept and downtown Georgie Brown doing our voice, the voices of State Wars up in the booth, broadcasting all day long. Their voice is probably as bad as mine is right now. I've been sponsored by Halls since I've been home with just a dry mouth. And our tournament directors, GT himself, Dexter, Brian Richford, Dennis Jelsick, Shane Fox, and Lulu Lariatagoki added to the staff this year, did a phenomenal job. So great work by everybody. And then we had Nelson doing all the video work each day. So hats off to Nelson. I don't know his last name. We'll call him Nelson Video for doing a great job, doing the highlight videos each day. And of course, Carl and Bob and their staff doing the photos each day. Mr. Video, Kevin Hart, Eddie and their whole staff there doing a great job with the live streaming. So definitely a collective effort. And you bring up a good point, Greg, about the staff at the rinks. You're only so good as your relationship with the rink. And, going to the Allen County Memorial Coliseum this year, we'll get into a little bit about how an amazing experience it was being there. But their staff was phenomenal. You don't know what to expect from a new staff. And I know I mentioned this once before, and I'm going to mention it again. Shout out to Brian Christie from their staff. Mid-60s, hip replaced. He laid that entire floor at the Coliseum by himself, which is just an eye-opening thing to all you young guys out there that think you work hard or whatnot. We have our staff. We could have 20 guys of 20-year-olds out there laying the floor crying about their hands hurt and they need a break and want to eat lunch and, blah, blah, blah. And this guy was out there by himself and laid that entire floor down. And I'm sure he was part of the pickup crew as well, knowing Brian. So thank you to Brian, Nathan, their whole staff out there. They had an incredible staff. And same thing at the Ice House. We almost felt like I took the Ice House for granted over this tournament because we're at the Coliseum a lot. But the Ice House, same thing, did a great job with their cleaning. And, Nancy and their whole staff there does a great job. And was real proud of the effort put through because everyone says they're going to do certain things with the protocols. and the cleaning we had to do this year, and all the hoops we had to jump through. And I'm passing that information on to the teams and families about, don't worry, it's going to be done a certain way. And in the back of my mind, I'm just hoping and praying that they do what they say they're going to do. And they did. And I think they got A+ marks for the cleaning processes and following the protocols we put in place.
Yeah, without a doubt. Want to know Joe from Sport One Parkview Ice House? He was on top of his crew out there. It was great to see, and I loved. We'll get into this a little more. We can get into it now, but we loved having the game starting on time. I thought that was a great feature to this event, and I think the parents and families really appreciated it as well. And we also staggered the games, so there was less people in the building. People were leaving, and the cleaning crew can go to both rinks, right after the games are over, in locker rooms, and so that was pretty cool. Tim, do you want to touch on that as well moving forward?
Yeah, I think one thing about this damn COVID virus going on, every business has been able to reevaluate their business to see what works and what doesn't, and businesses in every industry have been trying things they normally wouldn't try, whether it be people working from home or different scenarios with their jobs. And one of the things that we were able to do this year at State Wars is just that, start the games on time because of the cleaning protocols we had to. And I agree with you. I thought it was great. I loved it. And that's something I want to stick with moving forward. Start the game on time. There's no reason, the whole stupid start 30 minutes early. I don't know when that started. And we just followed suit with that in 2005 when we started our business, but it doesn't really make sense, really. Like, why not just start on time? And I know from a playing and coaching standpoint, I remember we had a 45 and over game. I'm in the locker room. I'm rushing to get ready because the rink's empty out there, and I'm usually the last guy in the rink because I'm working. And you know how it is, how it's hard to be focused on playing when you're working. And everyone's like, Tim, relax. We got 20 minutes till the game starts. And I'm like, oh, that was nice, knowing that you knew what time you were going to start. If people wanted to log in on home and watch a live stream, they didn't miss the game because it started early. And there's not that shuffle and bustle of trying to get to the rink on time, not knowing when they start. So we're definitely going to stick with that start on game time scenario. And yeah, it was a little weird sometimes having that open rink sitting there for 10, 15 minutes. But I kind of like that lull a little bit. It gave the referees a chance to maybe run to the restroom, catch their thoughts after a tough game, and they're not going right into the next one where they're pretty pissed off and now they have a new game starting and they're starting the game with a bad attitude already. Or, it just gave everyone a little bit of a pause. And I like that. And it's definitely something we're going to stick with moving forward.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it was nice because we got out there every once in a while, a couple times a day, and we were able to sweep the floors with that time. So, yeah. Some of those benches, especially the bench areas, got pretty dirty, pretty nasty looking. So we were able to get out there and do a nice little floor cleaning as well during that little break. So that was cool.
One of the things I realized, though, after doing it both ways that I definitely missed was running the tryouts, us picking the players, having the state jerseys out there, the brand new uniforms for the kids, especially. That feature is definitely the way to go for us. And not that it was bad. This way, the teams did a good job with their matching uniforms and whatnot, but it's still not the same as representing your state or your province or your country and being out there and having to make the team. And it helped us a lot, too, with knowing the players and the team levels going in. Because we get to see those kids at tryouts. Now we're basically hoping that the coach ranks the team properly and whatnot, and seeds them in the right division, whether they're a AAA, a AA, or single A team. So I love that aspect. But on the flip side, when it comes to the adults, I'm definitely leaning towards next year giving an option where a team can wear their own uniform if they have the matching jerseys and pay that team fee like they did. Or if they want the state jerseys, get the jerseys through us. We supply them as long as they're matching either way. The profit margins and everything, it winds up being the same for us on the adult side anyway, really. So it's really more about the team. I know some guys have a sponsor, maybe like a Car Shield or a Pama, and they want to wear that jersey and they have matching beautiful jerseys every year. And I got no problem with that. And if it saves the guys a couple bucks, maybe. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I'm thinking with the divisions, how they go a little bit. But other than that, miss having the award ceremonies, not a light show, and some of the extras and the big crowds that we normally would have. But definitely got a lot of nice emails post-tournament from families about how safe they felt there. And, of course, someone's always going to get COVID, or you don't know where they get it before or after. But I definitely think we made it as safe of a scenario as we could for everyone. And I think the families and the players, even the old men like me, needed that just to get out and play hockey and be a part of something normal. And I'm pretty proud that we were able to offer that for families and bring back some normalcy for a couple of weeks, at least for some people.
100% there, Tim. And I think people overall, did a great job of wearing their masks in the building. Obviously upstairs at the snack bar, at the bar, at the tables, they were able to take it off and eat and enjoy a beverage. But I thought the security did a great job. One of the older men over there, I saw him hounding the same old people every once in a while. And so that was good to see. The security was all over, they were all over it daily. So that was pretty cool to see. And, again, I do like the new rules that we're going to go with next year for the men's, the adults, their jerseys. I do like the on-time starts. I think that's a plus. These are things we talked about on the car ride home.
Yeah, it's a long ride to do that, right?
Yeah, so we're just going over the pros and cons and all that good stuff on the car ride home, and having our tryouts and state teams. That's really what State Wars is all about. Obviously, this year it was awesome. Parents, coaches, players, families, they did a great job at supporting the event and supporting where they come from. But it's just not the same. It's just a little different. It's a little weird.
Oh yeah, for sure. Tommy Prate, longtime sniper, makes a comment on Facebook that I agree with. He talks about the importance of preparation in hockey. As a coach, as a player, just being prepared and just being able to get in that locker room. That's kind of like your safe haven where you know that, all right, I'm getting focused for my game now. My girlfriend's outside, mom's outside, dad's outside. I'm just focused with my team now. I'm retaping my stick. I'm getting my wheels done. I'm doing whatever I want to do. And I know I have that X amount of time to get ready and then go play and perform. Exactly. And when you have that early game start and you're running around, it's not good for anybody. When you get old like me, you're worried about, breaking a hip out there. You want to be focused and ready and warmed up before you get out there. I had Lulu Larry, who's a strength and conditioning coach for the Yankees, working with this year. I had him help me with a stretch out before every game. It's tough working these long hours and going out there and have to play, as you know well from playing in 2 division. You're not as old as I am, but spring chicken anymore either.
No, it's tough, and it's funny you say that, the whole preparation thing. How about the NHL the other night when they, there was 5 overtimes, they had to, postpone the game, because these players, they're getting focused. Obviously, it's TV ratings and stuff like that. It was getting a little too late for that, but just mentally for the players, it's draining because it's like, some people have pregame rituals or pregame meals or stuff like that they typically do, and their whole nights, their days just thrown off because of it. So
right,
downtime stuff's cool.
Talking about the NHL. I've been glued to the TV since I've been home with this NHL playoffs, and I got to be honest, I think it's better. I don't personally care about the fans being there because I'm not making the money on that beer being sold or that hot pretzel. But as far as the hockey goes and that back-to-back games, and I could sit on my couch and just watch hockey all day and all night, I think it's unbelievable. And I got to be honest, I think for the players, talking about this sanctuary that Tommy Prate mentioned or the preparation, I think for these players being in this bubble and they're with their teammates the whole time and they don't have the distractions of real life, I think it's better for them. When you're, how it is, when you're on the road, you're focused. But when you have that tournament back home or in the NHL, you're the home game.
Yeah.
You could have a tough night. You go home, you still got your kids busting your chops and, you still got to take the dishes out of the dishwasher like regular dad and real life hits you in the face. In this bubble, I feel like these guys have it made. That's why, a guy like Tuukka Rask, ditching his team like that and stuff like that is real surprising to me, because to me, it's like, wow, this is like a perfect scenario for a team. It's a long haul. We have Pete Penicky, a good buddy of ours who works for the NHL, who's in Edmonton now. He's going to be there for 73 days, I think, which is a long time to be away from your family and whatnot.
Yeah.
but it allows you to be focused on the job at hand. And I think for these players, and you could see it, I mean, the players are going as hard as ever out there. I wasn't sure going into the tournament what it would be like, but I think these NHL players it's picking up now, and I'm loving every minute of it.
Yeah, there's been some phenomenal games. We've been going back and forth, with different plays and different games and matchups and stuff like that. But there's been some phenomenal hockey being played, and these guys are pouring it all out there like it's just a normal Stanley Cup playoff. So hats off to them. So that's pretty cool. I'm happy to see that that bubble working out for them. As Katuka, we don't really know what's going on, in his real life, his family stuff. So it's really hard for me to really, talk about that. But who really knows? Who knows what's going on in his real life? So, hats off to the
A couple
Bruins.
guys mentioned he might have a kid in the hospital, so that's true. Then obviously I get it for sure. I wasn't aware of that. So if that's true, then obviously family comes first. Dennis Jelsik's chirping me online here about long hours and working long hours and whatnot. I think Dennis confuses sometimes, Greg, sitting around in the office and running to get lunch and bringing it to the other rink is working a long, hard day. He forgets that when I leave the rink, the day doesn't end. Whether I'm entertaining at night or bringing guys around and talking to people and whatnot, it's all part of the same work process. But, we'd actually complimented Dennis about, working a little harder this year. So I won't bust his chops too much here, but,
Great job.
I think all of us in the know and on the staff know who leaves early when the floors are already getting picked up and who comes late when the floor has been put down already. So when the real work goes in. So
no, it's always
Brian
tough.
Christie, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's always tough, especially for you more than me, but you get those couple days you can finally sleep in till 8:00 a.m. or 9 a.m. and you're still getting bombarded with texts and calls that morning through our group chat or whatever. So you're never resting, you're never sleeping, and those 2 weeks it's all right. We'll man up and do it. So.
Well, it's just Murphy's Law. I was home during this whole quarantine every single day with my family. You and I drove to Feasterville one day to pick up some banners.
Mm-hmm.
And that one day my basement floods, I get a phone call and we go out to State Wars, and then we have that hurricane here in New York with trees getting knocked down everywhere. So things always happen when you're not there. And same thing at State Wars. This year it was the one day, sleeping in the first day. I think I slept in a little bit, get a phone call that I don't remember if the power went out at the rink, something happened. You're like, oh my God, it's always something, but this is Murphy's Law for you.
Sure.
Let's dive in a little bit about specifics about the tournament. So, we're going to do a couple podcasts, so we're not going to cover everything today, obviously. So today we're going to cover the 6 and under division, the 8 and under division, the 2010 division, and the Palma Pro division. So we want to give a little bit of love to everybody. I know we focus a lot normally on just the Palma Pro, but there's obviously a lot more to State Wars than just that one division.
Of course.
Let's talk a little about our favorite division every year, which is the youngest players. The 6U. It's always a great division. We had a 5-team division in 6 and under, and a big shout out to the guys that really make those younger divisions work. And this year specifically, Dave Zubin from Michigan, Dan Costanza from Illinois, Dino Verone from New York, Peter Dale from Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Those guys made up really the coaching of those 5 teams, and we're a big help with all that. And what's great about that age group, Greg, is it's just fun, right? It's just you watch the kids. It's all about just playing a game they love. They're smiling ear to ear. They're not getting too caught up yet in all the other nonsense. The parents are crazy, but not totally crazy yet. I know we had one parent complain about their kid's stats in 6 and under, which always cracks me up. But overall, it's just that fun division. And, looking at the division here, there was that IRHL, Illinois, New York kind of combo team there. And they kind of took it to everyone pretty well. Pretty good group there. I know New York was supposed to have their own team. And then with some things going on back home, they couldn't get a full team. So some kids jumped on with the Illinois guys. And, in hindsight, maybe I wish some of those New York kids jumped on with the other Illinois team that struggled a little bit to help them out. But, we don't know these kids and we're just going by with the coaches and whatnot. But I think that the second RHL team is much younger.
Yeah.
But yeah, 2 Michigan teams, they both went 2-1. And then the Farm Tough team, Peter always does a great job with the younger kids. So did you get to watch much of the 6U?
Yeah, I was able to watch a couple games. My favorite game of the 6U division was actually the 2 Border Cat teams playing each other in that semifinal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was back and forth. I think the blue team was winning majority of the game by 5 goals. And the regular Border Cat team came back. It was back and forth. Went to OT, went pretty deep into OT in that semifinal. And the Border Cat team beat the blue team, obviously, for that semifinal to match up with IRHL New York in the final.
It was a 9-8 final, actually.
Yep.
Jack Beffrey, I believe his name is, on the Michigan Border Cats, not the blue team, the regular team, scored the winner in OT to make it 9-8. But yeah, a wild game of that. I know Liam Metcalf, I'm looking here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 goals, by Liam Metcalf in that game for the Border Cats.
Phenomenal player, and he was actually the division high scorer as well.
Yeah, just great players. Ashton House had a couple of goals in that game. 3 goals he had as well. Another fun player to watch out there. Yeah, just awesome stuff. I know the referees, they get more exhausted from a 600 game like that than a Palma Pro game, because all those whistles and picking up pucks and lining the kids up again.
Yeah,
it's almost like herding cattle out there, getting them lined up for a face-off again.
It is. Going back to the whole stats thing, Tim, what people don't realize, and especially the parents at home, especially a team like the IRHL New York team, who kind of combined last minute, when we don't have the right jersey numbers to the players' names, obviously the stats are going to get screwed up. So coaches really have to communicate a little better with us when they're changing jerseys around. We want to get everything as perfect as possible, but when we're not getting that information, it's kind of tough, and it puts everyone in a bad spot. So, moving forward, hopefully everything can get dialed in. 6U's, more about the fun, I think, personally. So,
when it comes to stats, there's a reason why State Wars is the only tournament that does stats.
Yeah.
And the only tournament that has rosters in and goes through all this. It's time consuming. It could be a headache, and it costs a lot of money. It costs extra money to run stat programs, have people running the stats, have people fixing stats, paying the stat company, and then all the work we put all those rosters in. Greg does a lot of it, but he'll tell you that there's times 5 minutes before the game, we're still chasing a team around to get their roster. So it's a hard process, but we love doing it. And I think a lot of parents, they don't recognize the real rules of the game. There's 1 assist given out a goal. Warm-ups don't count for goals scored on your own goalie. I've had games where it's a 3-0 win and parents tell me their kid scored 6 goals. So we hear it all.
And obviously in the 6Us and the 8Us this year, after the mercy,
stats don't count.
The stats don't count. So if the game's a mercy, if it's a 9-1 game or 8-0 game, 10-2, something like that, after that's over, we don't record any more stats or goals or points. So
right.
Those don't count.
Right.
So people have to realize that as well. But
but it's all age. I know Matt Koleski always brings up in 45 and over, they missed one of his goals or whatever. So it happens at all age groups, right? So it is what it is. And we always make a joke. We always get an email from an adult player asking for a stat change, and Greg always kind of goes off on the persons. We don't fix stats in the men's AA division, guys. Again, I make the same joke every year. I've never had a parent in 16 years come into the office and say, "Hey, I got to talk to you about stats. My kid was given an assist he shouldn't have gotten. It should have went to so-and-so on the team." We've never heard it that way. It's always the mistake of what they're missing. So obviously, if there's so many mistakes from being made that way, there's got to be mistakes the other way that we never hear about. So how I look at it is sometimes you get one you shouldn't. Sometimes they miss one. It evens out in the long run of things. And unfortunately, again, it's just for fun. And even the NHL has instant replay, and you see stats changed all the time after a game or during a game when they go back and watch stuff. So there's only so much we can do. And we apologize if we're not perfect, but we do the best we can. And again, we think it's for fun, and we love doing it. But the 600 division, small nets. It's it's a different game with the smaller nets. I always love we get a 6-0 parent come up and complain about the small nets every year. That their kid's not scoring as many goals, I guess. So that's always fun to me. I think of these poor goalies. If you think about it, what's screwed up about hockey is that in most places, a 6-8-year-old kid is covering the same goal that the NHL goalie is covering. And of course, they're going to give up a million goals. You always get that one kid that can lift the puck or whatnot. And it's just so unfair. And that's why truly, I'm sure the coaches out there could attest to this. It's a struggle to find goalies at times, ice hockey and roller hockey, because that kid gives up 25 goals in a game and he feels like garbage after the game, and the parents are upset and the other parents blame the goalie, and it becomes a bad cycle and they wind up quitting. And it's sad because they shouldn't have to cover a goal like, the Carey Price is covering in the NHL game tonight. So that's one thing I love about soccer. I'm involved in a lot of soccer with my kids, and I think you do it right. They start out with smaller nets, less kids on the field, smaller ball, and they work their way up as they get older. Hockey, I know in ice hockey, they have a lighter puck and they do cross ice and it's little different things, but I do feel bad for those kids. I personally think the smaller nets would be better for a few age groups, but we just do it in 6 and under because we get too many complaints about it. But I really believe in the smaller nets because look at that Michigan game. It was a 9-8 game, 17 goals scored in a smaller net. So can you imagine how many goals? That could have been a 27-26 game with bigger nets. And all that does is ruin it for the goaltenders. So I'm not a goalie myself. I'm not a goalie parent, but I'm siding with the goalies on this. I like the smaller nets.
Yes, small nets are clutch. Honestly, it's kind of a pain in the neck for us, especially if there's, say, one 6U game on the rink, and then the rest, different divisions. Just because we got to run out there, move the nets, without skates on, it gets a little tough, but it's totally worth it in the long run. And I think people do appreciate it. So I think that's cool. And unfortunately, we didn't have them at the arena when they played the one game there. But
right. They don't have the smaller nets there.
Yeah, all the other games worked out really, really well at Sport One, and it was cool having those smaller nets for sure.
Yeah, so let's talk a little about the 8 on the division. So I was so excited this year to have a 12-team 8U division. It's incredible to see, especially with everything going on this year. We had that many teams and 8 under to come out to play. Teams from Michigan, California, New York, Illinois, Wisconsin, New Jersey, Missouri, all playing that division. And it was a great division, and this is a kind of division where you look back and you say, oh man, we could have split it into a higher and a lower because we did have a bunch of mercies, which stinks. But again, that comes down with us not having the tryouts. So if we have tryouts and we would have seen all these teams, we would have had them separated. But without knowing the teams, it's just potluck, and unfortunately coaches don't always give the true information about the skill level of their team. So we got to kind of just let it play out how it is. But looking here through the round robin, we had 4 undefeated teams that went 3-0. The Connex Flames from Michigan, the Bulldogs Blue from California, the Long Island Royals from New York, and IRHL Green from Illinois. Those 4 teams that went undefeated. Then we had the Michigan Border Cats went 2-0-1. Had a great time there, just with a tie. The New York Titans, which were a great team, and they wound up going to the finals. They played the Bulldogs during the round robin, had a great game in that. I watched it. They went 2-1. Then you had Farm Tough, another New York team, the DSC Levada Devils from New Jersey, getting their first taste of state wars and national experience. The second IRHL team, the Gremlins from Missouri, a lot of younger, newer kids, and the TLC Stars from Michigan, their second-tier team from the Michigan group. So love seeing that many young kids playing, Greg.
Yeah, so touching on that, so my favorite game at watching that division was that semifinal. It was Bulldogs Blue versus IHL Green. That was my top game in that division, and IHL was winning the entire time. Well, not the entire time, but the Bulldogs tied it with 4 seconds left on the clock. Wraparounds, Jackson Tron. Wraparound, and then the game went to overtime, and Jacob Clark scored to put the Bulldogs up into the championship game against the Titans. So that was a phenomenal game. It was back and forth, lots of action, lots of yelling from the parents, screaming, from the fans, all positive stuff. And it was just a really fun game to watch. And I was fortunate to be at the rink during that time. So that was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I think Farm Tough, they wound up going to the AA ship and winning. They had a pretty big win, 7-1 over a New York team. And in the AAA final, it was a rematch of the round robin, East meets West. I had that Connex Flames team picked the whole way to me. They were a good team, and they got knocked out by the Titans from New York, which really raised some eyebrows for me this tournament, and beat them in the semifinal or I think the semis. And then they played the Bulldogs Blue again, a rematch. And I had watched the first game at the arena, and I think it was a 3-0. I forgot what the score was in the round robin the first time they played each other, but they played game 1 of the tournament out. And I think what was the final score? 5-2. No, 5-2 was a championship game. 3-0 in the round robin.
Gotcha.
And then in the championship, they played again, and it was a 5-2 win. But that game was back and forth. And that Bulldogs team, they played 2010 as well, which again they went to the final there.
Yeah,
they got some players on that team. I said from day one, I told George Brown and Trefty, and he wound up winning MVP of the tournament. That number 10, Jacob Clark.
Yeah, he can play.
Oh boy,
yeah,
that kid could play out there. I mean, he's a future Palmer Pro player, no doubt. What's that?
They're all pretty good.
That Jackson Gillis kid is incredible. Blake Burnett. There's some good players out there. Devin Werbach, their goalie's just, you beat everybody. You can't beat him. Unreal. But that Jacob Clark kid, maybe even Jackson Gillis, I might sign them. I know nowadays in college, you hear about Michigan State offering money. They're signing kids at 5 years old to play Division I hockey. I'm going to sign those guys to sniper contracts, I think, next week, because boy, can those kids play. That Jacob Clark boy, he was my favorite player in the whole tournament to watch. Head up, hands, the way he saw the game, his skating was incredible. Moving the puck, me, Greg, I'm all about moving the puck. The way he passed the puck was great. Jackson Gillis, fastest skater of the tournament, great goal scorer. He scored a beautiful backhander in the championship, and a lot really fun to watch. But then on the flip side, the New York team, and I'm embarrassed to say, living in New York, I don't really know a lot of these kids that well, and I'm hoping to get to know them more. I would love to coach this team. Watching these Titans kids, they got some good players on that team also, Greg.
Yeah, a lot of great players. I think there was a couple first-year players on that team, like first-year 8U, and had I think a couple 6U players as well on that team. With Declan.
I think that was the other team. The New York Titans team was their top team. I only had any 6U on this team.
Well, Declan McNamee.
He's 6U?
Yeah, he's a 6U. He was actually MVP of the 6U division.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, that team there, that Nick Puma kid.
Yeah.
Great player, Fishbach, Chalupa. Yeah. That Zeb Zollinger, he scored a goal in the championship game where he danced 2 guys. It looked like Bo Horvat in the Canuck game last week. The moves he made, it was unreal. They got a good group there. And David Stefaniak, the goaltender, something else too. Again, all great players. I don't want to leave anyone out. Cole Gindy, Brian O'Reilly, Frankie Diatlo. They got some good, top to bottom, a good team. But hats off to, Corey Gindy and Dino Verone, coach of that team. They did a great job with that team. I think they mercied the Royals, who was our buddy Derek Kern's ice team group that came out to play. Another phenomenal group. First years mostly, I think, if not all. Yeah. But they just steamrolled them in the semifinal or the quarterfinal, and that was shocking because the Royals have some really good players as well.
Yep. No, for sure. Now let's move into the AA bracket. We had Farm Tough winning that one over Team New York. Which was, pretty lopsided final. Farm Tough won that game 7-1. But the game I watched during that playoff format was that really stood out to me was the Team New York game versus DSC La Beta Devils. That game was back and forth. New York scored towards the end of the game. It was just back and forth action. And DSC, man, they were up 3-0 that game. And New York, came back. It was 3-2. DSC scored again. Then New York just started pumping in some more goals, and it was just a great game to the end. So that was my game in that division that I really love to watch. That really sticks out into my head.
Greg, what's so amazing when you unfortunately, I'm going to age myself again. When you've been doing this for so long, and now you're seeing guys that grew up playing, having kids, and now their kids are playing, and that's really what it's all about.
Yeah.
I know we talked about this on a podcast months ago with CJ Yoder about how our sport is really still so young. It's not like baseball or football that's been around for ages, or hockey, NHL. Roller hockey really is just getting to that second generation, really, for the most part. When I look at this 8-0 division, we mentioned Derek Kern. Derek Kern to me is one of the all-time great players coming out of Long Island, if not top 2 or 3. I don't know who is. And a close friend of mine. I coached him as a kid, got him involved a lot of the role. He was a big ice guy, and then became just a phenomenal roller hockey player. And you played with him for years, played for Team USA. Now he's got his kid playing, and he got all these ice kids that he coached to come out and play. And now they're loving it, and that's how it starts. You look at, Ben Barrett, coach of the California team, grew up playing. He mentioned to me there that his last ice experience was getting cut by the Comets at that arena when he was a player playing ice. I think he grew up in Canada. Dave Zubin's a player. Peter Dell, back when I was played against Peter all the time. Great player back in the day. His kids are playing. Scott Ivy's on the Devils from New Jersey, good player. Loves the game. He's got his daughter playing. I saw Cameron Rowan at the rink one night. He was a phenomenal. Was he in '89, Greg? Phenomenal player as a kid. Now his son's playing. And I'm going to leave out somebody. Dino Verone, who's running these New York teams now, played with you on the Tour Roller Dragons back in the day. For years as a player. Now he's coaching, and that's what it's all about. And again, it makes me feel old when I see someone I remember being a little kid, and now his kid is playing in the tournament. But it also makes me feel so warm inside and great, that knowing that the sport's just evolving, and this is why we have 12 teams in the 8U division, because that's the future right there.
100%, man. It's awesome to see. Zubin's doing a phenomenal job out in Michigan, picking up the pieces out there with the youth. With a lot of the rinks shutting down and stuff like that out there, he's doing some great stuff out there with his young ones. I think he's got like 10 young kids. Every name on the roster is Zubin.
Yeah, I don't know how many kids he's got. I give him credit. They got a lot of kids in that family. And even, Phil Saunders, has been helping him out.
Yeah.
He's another great hockey guy. Played a lot growing up. Good hockey player. 6'10" frame, but his daughter was playing.
Terrible ref.
His son Wyatt, who's one of my old time, he's a Team North America of favorite kids to talk to at the tournament for me. I think he broke his arm or whatever he did before the tournament. So he was there just cheering him on and reminded me that they beat us in 45 and over after the championship game about 15 times. So just great family, and seeing Phil there coaching, and his daughter is playing, and his niece. And that's what it's all about, just getting these kids playing. CJ Yoder was there coaching his son. His son didn't play this year, I don't think. Dan Costanza, though, his kids. That's really how the game is going to keep developing and growing. And it's so awesome seeing guys that played now having kids playing. And that's what made this 8U division so special.
For sure.
Let's move into the 2010 division. So this was our first single berth year. We did 6U, 8U, then we moved in. So these are basically first year 10s.
Yeah.
And I knew going in that this IRHL team, that's a team I was going to watch out for.
Yeah.
Because for years I've been saying that Will Johnston, I don't know what is going on at that house as far as training and whatnot goes, but this kid's just a man-child. He's been, to me, the most dominant young player for years. And it's amazing to see him just continue to grow. And such a great family, great kid. He plays on that 09 team. I think he just made the 09 AAA ice team with those kids as well.
Yeah.
But remember that name because again, another kid I'm signing sniper contract, 2010, Will Johnston. I want him on the Sniper Palmer Pro team in 5 years.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. A couple of years back, there wasn't a 2010 team out of Illinois. I remember going to the tryout, and they were young. They were probably 6U at the time, and he was a first year 6U, I think, and he was bigger than everyone. Stronger, faster, and just as good. And I was like, wow, this kid's a first year 6U or first year player. I'm like, wow, it's pretty stupid. He's really good. So, hats off to that family. I know his mom, Courtney, was a D1 lacrosse player, and I'm pretty sure his father was a pretty good athlete as well.
Yeah, the college football player, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Once look at Rocco Grimaldi, right, from California. I mean, his family, I think they were both Olympians, and he's now in the NHL. So.
I remember years ago watching a YouTube meeting. I think it was the head coach from Minnesota University or somewhere, one of the big schools, and he had said to parents, "Relax. If dad's 5'5" and mom's 5'2", you're probably not going to have a 6'5" NHL defenseman." And I think we forget that at times that genetics and their family, it is a factor. You look at how many Stoll brothers are out there playing. In the NHL, you see brothers all the time. The Sutter family. The Hugheses. Everyone's talking about Jack Hughes. I think now I watched the other one play on the Canucks. Canucks are one of my new favorite teams now, and I watch Quinn Hughes play, and I don't even think about Jack. I want that kid. Defenseman, the way he skates, but genetics are a factor, and Will Johnson is just an incredible athlete. You could tell. And you look at the Costanza boys on those teams. Dan was obviously one of the best players to ever put on skates for the Tour Mudcats and for Team USA for years. And no shock that his son Ryan out there, especially to me, is just another future amazing player in the sport.
Yeah, it's so much fun to watch, Tim. Even the Farm Tough team was really good. The kid Keaton Kazalauskas and Levi Walderstorff. Those two kids really impressed me. But IRHL was just so deep, and I think it was 5-3 at the end of the first. Yeah, from what I'm looking at here. But then they scored 5 more in the second, which was pretty crazy. So yeah, I mean, hats off to Farm Tough for hanging in there and playing a great tournament.
I think that Kozlowski's kid, he was the high scorer of the tournament, I believe.
Yeah, he was. He was
14 goals in 3 games, Greg.
Yeah, he was. He was the high scorer.
You got
Wisniewski on IRHL was phenomenal.
Pete Phelan, Case Gindy on the Titans, Bronx Bess, Eric Bess's son, another one, Eric Bess, Tor River Monsters, another great hockey player back in the day. I played against him many times growing up, in our older divisions. He's got his boys playing, he's got the 05 group, got the 2010s with Bronx. As a New Yorker, love that name. And, another great player. So there's so many good players. Ryan Keeling in the Missouri team, that STL 10 team, which don't sleep on that team either. That STL 10, that St. Louis team, they threw that team together late, and they had some issues with ice hockey tryouts going on and getting kids there. But next summer, I haven't announced it yet, but I will in a minute. Back in Missouri next summer, State Wars. I watch out for that STL 10 group.
100%, Tim. Do you want to get into State Wars 17, or do you want to wait till the end to announce the dates?
Yeah, we can mention it real quick. So we're excited next summer. Mark your calendars, July 20th to August 2nd. We're back to one of our favorite places, the St. Peter's Recplex in St. Peter's, Missouri. The State Wars 17 next year.
Wow.
Incredible thing, 17 years. But yeah, we love being in St. Peter's. Obviously, we love Fort Wayne, but St. Peter's, that arena we have there as well, there is not as nice as the Coliseum, is different, but just a beautiful surrounding seating setting there. Locker rooms go right into the bench areas outside when you skate up. Yeah. So just a great setup and just a really fun city. You went to Lindenwood University in that area, just a great area, a lot going on, and definitely excited to get back to the Lou next year. Yeah,
always love getting back there. Next year, Looking forward to it, man. I'm already looking forward to it.
Lion's choice. I mean, if no other reason, Lion's choice, right? I mean, I know Brian Richford, that's all he thinks about is Lion's choice when we go out there. So I think of Lion's choice and the Ameristar. Those are my two things I think of when I think of State Wars in St. Peter's.
Yeah, the Ameristar for sure. But no, if you're a big roast beef person and if you think Arby's is great, it doesn't even touch Lion's Choice. So when you're in St. Louis next year, make sure you go to Lion's Choice. It's a local chain there. It's our favorite. It's my favorite. I go there.
Arby's is dog food compared to Lion's Choice.
Yes, I agree.
Lion's Choice. Where else can you get an ice cream cone for 25 cents?
Yeah.
So.
No, awesome. Yeah. So July 20th to August 2nd, guys, St. Peters, Missouri, at the St. Peters Recplex. So looking forward.
I forgot to mention too in that 2010 division, that California team, the Bulldogs, they played 8U in 2010.
Yeah.
I think they went to the finals in the 2010 division, right? I mean, that's pretty impressive for a team a year younger than everybody. That Cali team, we definitely had some good Cali teams come out as always. Not as many as normal from California, but we still had. I don't know. We probably still had about a dozen teams or so from California come out and play.
Yeah.
But, obviously it's a big trip and whatnot, and some people may not want to fly during everything going on or whatnot. But still had a lot of teams from the West Coast, which is awesome to see.
Yeah, so with that AA bracket for 2010, the Bulldogs, they played great hockey. They played that Michigan NXTL, which is a great team ran by Matt Mosley from Michigan. A lot of ice hockey players. I think it was a lot of his ice hockey team. So that was pretty cool to see. But the Bulldogs, man, they lost 6-4 in the final to, a 2010 team. It's pretty good. It's impressive.
100%.
But
that St. Louis team, STL 10, pretty good team there.
Yeah, it looks like the Bulldogs, they came back towards the end pretty late and just didn't have enough to tie the game up. But they hung around, man. They did a good job. So I want to mention now before I forget, the Bulldogs uniforms were my favorite uniforms of the 2 weeks that we were there.
I had planned a Kobe Bryant style jersey for the colors for California this year with our tryouts. So everyone loved it and they kind of jumped on that, which is great. Even though next year that'll be the colors. Like, we told everyone that whatever colors we were using this year, those will be the colors next year for State Wars. So we'll keep that going for a lot of kids that didn't get to play this year. But yeah, I agree with you. A lot of really cool jerseys this year. Some adult jerseys were really awesome. Some real wild ones out there. I like that Moneyball with the Monopoly jersey they had.
Yeah, those are cool.
That was pretty sweet.
I like the Rungheist Brewery, the Ohio team.
Yeah.
Bocata's team. I like that look. I like their jerseys. Those are pretty cool. But yeah, Bulldogs, they have my number one vote. So
yeah, no, I like the Bulldogs.
Me or Ben or whoever, made those jerseys. Great job.
Yeah. No, they were awesome. That's why. And some of the teams, the older teams with Dan Maxwell, the juniors, they were called the Rink Rat Mambas or whatever. I thought was pretty cool. Nice tribute to Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's jump into Palmer Pro. I mean, we can say whatever we want, but this is the division everyone talks about. We had our own little NHL bubble, if you would, at the Coliseum the first 3 days for the pro teams, and I didn't leave that rink for the first couple of days. I know a lot of teams those first couple of days didn't see me as often. I was at the arena most of the time, between coaching and whatnot, and just watching games. As coaches for Team USA, Greg, the Palmer Pro division honestly is like a rehearsal for me. It's like the tryout watching players. This year to me was a tryout. I'm watching guys because we didn't get to have a world championship this year, and now we've hit a reset. And unfortunately, it starts over again. A year passes by, and players get better, players get older, things change. So I really was watching players long and hard and taking a lot of notes on guys this year at Palmer Pro, thinking about decisions for next year for 2021 Team USA, and there will be some changes. There's going to be new players coming in, hopefully. And I watched a lot of players' growth this year. And pretty much everyone was at this tournament. There were some players missing this year, and I want to mention them quickly. Like the Palmer Lebeda Golden Knights, Travis Snow, who was captain of Team USA, one of the best players. He had some issues going on in work and his sister's wedding coming up and whatnot. So he wasn't able to be there for them. And, Brett Ollinger, who to me is a great defender, wasn't there for those guys. So you saw that with their team a little bit. The Alkali Rebel Lions, Derek Burnett, who also played for Team USA for us, his wife was graduating from law school. Nielsen Archibald is a good defender, was missing for them this year. And, Troy Loggins, another great player, been playing for State Wars since day one. Just an awesome player and a rising star in the division. He was injured, couldn't come play. So, and then, for our team, even the snipers, when you lose Matt White and Chris Terry, both within, and Charlie Combs, all in the 2 weeks leading up to the tournament for different reasons with ice hockey, and Chris Terry had a golf outing he had to go to and whatnot. You can't replace those kind of players. So, a lot of teams had those scenarios going on, but, it's a chance for other players to step it up. And I thought the competition was phenomenal, and maybe the deepest Palma Pro division that we've had since we started in 2015, Greg. And again, once again, you look at it, not one team went undefeated through the round robin. So what does that tell you?
Yeah, competitive games there. I wasn't at the rink too much over at the arena, watching games, watching pro games. I'd just get there for my game and leave and go to the other facility. But just from keeping track of the games and watching a couple online, during the streaming, every team really impressed me. Rink Rat Liberty, the new team, they hung in there, man. They have a lot of young players, which we knew coming into the event. Noah Litsko was phenomenal as always. I thought their goaltending was great, and they brought it every game. So that was a team that, not that they impressed me because I knew they were going to be good, but they didn't really surprise me. Put it that way. A team that really did surprise me, though, honestly, was Envious Rink Rat. I thought they'd be a solid team, but they definitely played a lot better than I thought they would. Hats off to George Brown, head coach.
I was real impressed with that team.
Yeah, I agree.
That Sean Szlowski kid, who was captain of the Fort Wayne Comets, and had we been allowed to really promote it, from talking to the guys at the arena, they said we would have had 2,000 fans at every game he was there for. He's such a fan favorite out there. Really loved watching him play. I mean, he's not overly flashy, but he's so strong on the puck and smart. And you can just see that if he was on his wheels a little bit more, how more deadly he would be. But I really enjoyed watching him play. But that team, JC Campagna is a great player. Ryan Perry scores goals. Garrett Ross scores goals. Nick Okada, Jess Hackett. I love watching Jess Hackett play. Like, he's a guy out there. He just gets involved with everything, blocking shots, diving on guys. I mean, you may be able to call a penalty on him every 5 minutes, but I just love his intensity out there. Like, he's so frustrating to play against.
I think it's the deck hockey in him.
Yeah. He's a good player to watch. And, Chucky played great in goal for them. They lost a heartbreaker game in the playoffs where, I'll be honest, I thought a very questionable call that gave the Roadrunners a power play late in the game, and then they scored on it, and then they just fell apart and gave up another goal right after to lose the game. So at the end of the day, it's on the Rink Rat team, and that's a growth process of not letting a bad play kind of ruin it for you. And we've been there with the snipers, obviously.
I mean, I didn't see the play live. I just kind of heard about it and looked back on it. It's just like one of those plays where, why even put yourself in that position? But at the same time, it's like, it's a hockey play. So it's tough. It's a tough call all around, for the official and for the player. But it's just like you said, one of those things. It's just a growing thing. So,
my biggest takeaway, when I really thought about the Palma Pro Division this year and where the sport is in the Pro Division, I'm gonna get on my soapbox for a minute, so excuse me, but from talking to the refs, what I've come to realize about this division is the hardest thing about reffing this division is you have men playing against boys. Okay. And what I mean by that is you have guys that are, late 20s, early 30s that are filled out, strong men that are playing professional ice hockey or whatnot. And you have a lot of young guys that are, 18 to 23 years old that are playing college roller hockey or just, more roller level guys, which is great. And they're awesome. But they're, still skinny and light on their
Yeah,
feet.
easy.
What's that?
Is it easy there?
Yeah. You're not skinny. But you were when you started out.
Right.
And when you have men playing against boys, penalties like that one happen. And I don't know if they're really penalties because bodies go flying sometimes. But if a Jack Combs, say on our team, who's a big, strong guy, if he nails into some young, skinny kid, that kid's going to go flying and the arm's up.
Yeah.
But if that same skinny kid lays the same shoulder into Jack Combs is going to turn and look at him like, are you okay, kid? And the arm doesn't go up. And it puts the referees in such a tough position because it looks worse than it is. And players are almost penalized for being bigger and stronger. Where if it was a checking game like ice hockey, you're allowed to hit the guy no matter how big you are, and it's a hit. But because there's no hitting, I think it's a really tough dynamic to ref. And it's almost an advantage to those smaller teams where way back in the day when we first started getting involved in pro, it was the opposite. It's like watching the NHL back in the 80s to today where, you watch guys chopping guys and beating the crap out of each other and it was fine, and I like the game better today in the NHL, obviously it's a skill game, but in the NHL, in the Palma Pro, it's a tough scenario. Like there was a play and the refs actually called it great, but in that same game at Rink Rat and the Roadrunners, and I won't mention players' names, but there was a player on the Roadrunners who nailed behind the net a player on Rink Rat. And then the player on Rink Rat nailed them back the same way. And that player went flying down. And that player was screaming and yelling at the refs. And I heard the ref say to him, you did the same thing, kid. It's back and forth. You just went flying. And that's kind of my point a little bit about it. It's a tough game to ref. And I feel for the refs in that scenario. And I don't know how you change it. You really can't.
Such a great area.
Yeah, and with that, I just wish some of the younger players in the game, because they're the future, I want them to respect the game a little bit more because I see a lot of yelling, at the refs and stuff. It's almost like when they get touched, they want to call, but when they get called for something, they scream about it. So it's which way do you want it going? Do you want them to let everything go or call everything? Because, it is a man's game. And to me, it's almost like, hey, if you can't handle it, then don't play, And you know me, how I am with our guys. When our guys start complaining about the refs or the puck or this or that, what do I tell guys all the time? Shut your mouths, play. It's not about them. It's about you. Be better. And I hope that message is going on in more locker rooms because it is a man's game, and I want to see men playing it. And remember that when you step on the floor, you're playing a man's game.
Yeah, no, it's tough. It's a tough job the refs have. Players do have to adjust and adapt each game. For the most part, I thought the refs were very, very good and they were consistent, which is all we can really ask for, right, Tim? I mean,
yeah,
consistency was pretty good. Obviously every ref's going to rep a game different, but for the most part, I thought everything was done great, and the refs did an awesome job.
Yeah, I think when players go back and when we start releasing these pro games, if you go back and watch, I think players will have a different appreciation of certain things. Like I watched one game and a player nailed the player right over the head with a stick, nailed him right in the head. And he's screaming at the ref the whole way to the box. And I'm watching it going, how do you argue that?
Yeah.
You just nail him in the head with your stick,
Yeah.
So hopefully players can go back and they watch that and go, okay, I'm an idiot, and it happens in the NHL games. I watched it last night. A guy got a penalty and he's screaming, and they show it on the Jumbotron, clear as day that you just did that, but, it's a heat of the moment kind of stuff. But it is a tough game to ref with the size difference out there a little bit. And it's a hard game, but I loved watching the NBA's Rink Rat team as well.
Yeah.
They were, going into the tournament, if you remember, the Mudcats were my dark horse going in when we talked about the tournament. And I thought this was the best Mudcats team I've seen in maybe 10 years. They play definitely in the Palmer Pro. I mean, I know back in the day, you know, early days of Narch and whatnot, Mudcats had some great teams, but in the last bunch of years, they've been that middle of the road team. And I know going into it, you worry about, oh, Brett Leggett's not there, because Brett Leggett's is hands down top 2 or 3 goalie in the sport. But Clay Taylor,
Oh, wow.
you can't blame it on goaltending. The guy was phenomenal. I mean, he played incredible. The team played great. I mean, they lost a heartbreaker in that Roadrunner game, which give credit to the Roadrunners. Played a great game against them. You know, I thought the Mudcats had a good chance to win this tournament, and you know, another really fun team to watch.
Yeah, how about CJ Yoder? We got to get on his diet, his training habits. You know, he was remarkable this week, well, last couple weeks ago, and that Huntbreaker kid from Missouri as well. He was lights out too. You know, he was burying a lot of pucks, played some awesome hockey. You know, I haven't seen him play at all, so that was definitely a huge pickup for them. And young
Travis Turnbull always stands out to me.
Oh, of course.
He's such a presence. He says a presence out there.
Yeah,
you know, he's banging, he's falling, he's getting up, he's whacking you, he's ripping a slap shot goal, like blowing it through the goalie. He's another one. He screams and yells. He plays so intense. Yeah. He must drink 3 monsters before a game. Like, he's just so fired up to go. I just love the intensity of Travis Turnbull out there. And, you know, he gets the guys pumped up, and then you get guys like, you know, they had a lot of young guys like Ethan Frank, you know, Ryan Galt, you know, are both underrated players. And then, you know, it was great seeing Ty Murchison, you know, who was in 03, you know, his dad, you know, we love Ken, you know, great hockey player back in the day, coached the Team USA at one point. He was on the bench with Chad Siebel to help out a little bit, and seeing his guy get out there, and he was getting into it with guys. And
he didn't back down. He was the youngest player in the division. He was in the middle of it all.
No,
and he put some points on. He played phenomenal. He was great.
You know, Lauren Barron's still a beautiful skater to me out there. You know, watching him back there, Skylar Hoare, Andy Cripps. You know, just so many good players on that team.
Yep. That
I think they could have went the whole way for sure.
Yeah, 100%, man. Yeah, let's move on. I want to touch on Connex Pure for a bit. I thought a player on Connex who stood out the most to me was Eric Purcell. Obviously, we played against Eric a bunch of times. He, you know, usually plays on the Border Cats, but the Border Cats weren't here at the event due to a wedding. Actually, a bachelor party for Ryan Kish. But yeah, Purcell hopped on Connex Pure, and you know, looking at Eric, I'm like, oh, you know, looks like he put on a couple LBs. You know, he looked a little bigger to me, but he was still moving out there and trucking, and he buried some pucks, man. He was playing defense. He stepped up into the play a bunch. He's got a great shot, great hands, and he uses his body so well. He really impressed me this week. Obviously, you know, we've played against him many a times, but this past State Wars, man, he really did impress me a lot. So,
no, he had a great tournament.
Yeah, I thought Purcell really stepped it up.
You know who really stood out for me this tournament, and I get them confused all the time, and I apologize for that. The
Moonies,
the Bennett brothers.
Bennett, yeah.
You know, I think it's Shane. Whoever had the yellow in his gloves.
Yeah,
I think it was Shane that did this tournament. He was hands down to me the best player on the Roadrunners this tournament, except maybe for Keith Johnson in goal. On the floor, I noticed Bennett. He opened my eyes big time to his game. I loved watching him out there. Added so much intensity. Scored a beautiful goal against us, I remember, in that game. So obviously that stood out as coaching, but I watched all their games, and you know, I don't know how that transpired with the Roadrunners and Envious Rink Rat. You know, I know they were George Brown's guys, and I just think like, wow, those Bennetts played on Envious this tournament, which I think at one point they might have been supposed to be, and I know there was like a trade went on. I don't know what Vio worked his magic, and kudos to Vio, whatever he pulled off there with that move, because those guys, they really impressed me this tournament. And on that floor, which we'll talk a minute about that still mat floor, but how fast it is. They just can move out there. And, you got the Joey D and you got the Max Halverson and the Jay Court. We know the names.
Yeah.
But those guys, to me, just stood out as like, wow. Like, that was a coming out party for me for the Bennetts.
Yeah, they could shoot the puck too. That's a big thing that the Roadrunners needed was, some goal scorers, and they know how to play roller hockey. But, they played on a lot of the junior and juggernaut teams with the Roadrunners in the past. So I think that's kind of where they got the familiarity with the Roadrunners. And, I guess they're like, this is pretty good. Let's stay on this Roadrunner squad. And, it's obviously some great young talent, and they're a team to watch out for. So, it's just a great mix, with talent for that team, especially adding the brothers, because, they definitely added a lot to the team, a lot to the equation. So that was pretty big for the Roadrunners.
Alkali Rebel Alliance. Obviously, I mentioned some players that weren't there, which how do you replace those guys? You can't. You can't replace the Bernie and Archie on D. You can't replace Troy Loggins. But another team that, they picked up Jarrett Westcott, which to me is a rising star out of Missouri.
Yeah.
Even Blake Dangos, who is so funny. I think of Blake as that little kid at All-American, getting us, hey, kid, go get me a drink, like at the rink when we're running a tryout. Yeah. Such a great kid. Nasty hands. He was playing out there with those guys. And of course, you got Spees, who won high score of the tournament. Alice Kyle, Novak, Bryson, we know all the names. But we didn't have Joe Cook there. It was his wife's 50th birthday. So happy 50th to Mrs. Cook. But Phil Maroon, he added that intensity.
Yeah.
And, you and I know Phil a long time, and we know what he brings that way. So he added that level of it. Zach Lane's always terrific in goal. And, again, another team, they were right there. Like, you kind of knew that they probably weren't going to go the whole way. You kind of saw they were maybe missing a little bit, and you knew who they were missing, obviously, but they were right there. And just another favorite team of mine every year to watch. And, they added Alex McRae this year, Alec McRae, who, plays American Hockey League defender, big boy out there. So I could see, Cook and Phil tweaking that roster a little bit. I know how Phil's mind works. He's probably tweaking the roster as the games are going on.
Mm-hmm.
But that team is going to get better and better. And I would watch in 2021 in Missouri. I'll mark it down now. That's my dark horse next year is the Alkali Rebel team, or whatever they're going to be called next year.
Yeah, I could see that. And like you said, I know Phil Maroon very well. He's definitely on the phones already, waiting for for next year's roster to come together. So, but yeah, Phil did a great job with the guys.
His brother Pat will be on that team before you know it.
Yeah, if he doesn't play snipers, maybe.
The snipers own the rights to him, but I guess family comes first. So Phil will work out something. He'll give us Justin.
I'll take Justin.
Definitely love Justin.
Yeah, so let's move on to another team, Rink Rat. Going into the tournament, we thought they'd be a solid team. They lost a lot of key pieces. Let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
But they did pick up a lot of young, great talents, and they got some of the old revision players playing with them now. But my favorite player on this team, and it's been for a long time, besides Joaquin, obviously, but is Kyle Mayhew. They were missing him last year. He's a big piece of this puzzle.
He played Denver ice hockey, right?
Yes, he plays ice hockey at Denver. But he's just a fun player to watch, man. He's awesome. He's a smart player. He's played roller hockey his whole life. And he can score, he can defend. He's just looks like he's a great team guy. And he was definitely my favorite player on Rink Rat this year.
Always like watching Verstegen play too out there.
100%. He's a great player. He brings it all too. But my favorite player on Rink Rat was Kyle Mayhew, and they were really missing him last year for sure.
Yeah, Rink Rat was playing well. They played us tough in a game, and they're a very defensive-oriented team.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what happened in their playoff game with the Black Ice, and that kind of got Black Ice jump-started, I think. Black Ice had struggled in the round robin. They won one game in regulation of their 4, which just, again, speaks to volumes of the round robin at the Palmer Pro. But Black Ice came out on fire against Rink Rat and just steamrolled them that game. I don't think, Dan Maxwell after the game, his glasses were all fogged up. He was like in a tizzy after that game. It was just a crazy game how well Black Ice played. But yeah, Rink Rat, considering all the changes they've had on that team, you know, it's amazing. They won the championship in 2018.
Yeah.
And since then, you know, they've lost a lot of key players, but they keep trucking along and making some moves. You know, they added some younger guys like Grayson Yada this year, Will Shepard, Cooper Har, you know, Miles Harrington. You know, they've added some young guys who are all good players. And, you know, again, they're another team that's maybe a player or two away from being right up there. But, again, you know, just to make the playoffs in the Palmer Pro is pretty tough. And hats off to Dan and that Rink Rat group for a job well done.
Yeah, they're moving forward. You know, even though they're missing a bunch of guys from the past, you know, they're really trucking along and getting some real good youth talent there. So I think they have a great mix of players on that team, and Joaquin does a phenomenal job at leading the pack and leading the charge and just controlling the guys. You know, they look up to him and they respect him, and they have a good thing going over there. So hats off to Rink Rat.
You know, you brought up that Rink Rat Liberty team before. You look at the scores. I mean, they lost to Black Ice 3-2.
Yeah.
They lost to the Mudcats 3-2. And I don't know which one of these are shootouts and whatnot. And they lost 5-2 to Rink Rat Envious. So those are three of the best teams in the tournament that they played games like that with, you know, and they lost 9-4 to Palma. So they had a tough schedule, played tough teams. You know, it's funny with the Black Ice matchup because, you know, I know at Tours, Black Ice beat them 1-0, I think, in a round robin game.
Yeah,
I don't know if it was
I think it was a shootout actually.
a shootout. And a lot of guys were telling me they were accusing Black Ice of blowing that game on purpose to knock another team out of the playoffs. And I wasn't there. I have no idea. And I didn't even talk to Jay or Aaron about that. But I wouldn't think that would happen. But you know, how do you tell you guys we're going to blow this game, guys? You know?
Okay.
But then you see this score here, 3-2, and you go, guys, obviously this Liberty team's pretty damn good. You know, it's not a fluke. And those Liberty guys know these Black Ice guys pretty well. I mean, you got brothers playing against each other, so guys are coming hard. You know, that Liberty team, they may be, I don't know if they're the fastest team in the division, but I guarantee if you had every guy on every team race, they'd be in the top 3 in speed in that division. They work their asses off out there, those guys.
Yeah, and let's be honest too. Liberty didn't have a lot of the Pittsburgh kids, the Inferno players. You know, they had some teams at Tours, so you know they combined some of their better players with the Liberty guys and made a couple other pickups, and there you go. They got a game changer there. And
you know, Novelisco is a good player. Jared Gerger. I mean, the whole Gerger family. Again, talk about like families. You know, that whole family is incredible.
Yeah.
But Jared had an almost goal. I don't think he was there, Greg. And you got to go back and watch it. But they had a game. I don't remember who they were playing, but he had this phenomenal move, and then he just missed burying it. I don't know if he hit the post or what it was. It feels like Palmer Pro was 2 years ago for me now.
Yeah.
But he had such a play, and I remember joking around with about his dad with it afterwards, and he said, you know, that's Gergers for you, missed the net. But it was a phenomenal play, and he's going to be a superstar in this division. So hopefully this Liberty team keeps at it because they got some good young players, and they're going to be a team to watch in the future.
Yeah, I was talking to Mike Gerger after one of the games, before one of their games, and he's like, he goes right there. You just can't get over that hump. I'm like, well, you know, guys just have to keep pushing through because, you know, you have a young team. You know, once you get over that hump, you'll be right there, you know,
right.
And they're competing. Kind of reminds me of our old sniper teams when we first started playing pro, right? Like we'd be right there losing the Mudcats with a couple seconds left, or, you know, losing to Team Mission, or, you know, in close games, close battles where we're winning against Team Rink Rat back in the day. And, you know, we finally got over that hump, and, you know, ever since we've been a pretty good team. So,
you know, let's talk about the Alkali Iska Grizzlies now. You know, our buddies, you know, Andrew, Zuccarello, Otto, and DJ. Otto, Tomato. Let's just call him Zook. How about that?
Zook.
But, you know, that team, you know, they went 0-4, but again, you know, they had a tough schedule, and you look at the scores here. I mean, you know, they had a tough road with the Sniper 7-2. But again, it just come down to matchups, but they lost 6-3 to Rink Rat. They lost 6-4 to the Roadrunners, and they lost 6-3 to Alkali Lions. So it's that's a tough schedule right there. And they're right there. You know, 3 of those 4 games were 3 goals or less they lost by. So they're there, you know. I think Garrett Vasil's a very good player. Remy Parker, was back this year. Shout out to Remy. Kid's always smiling. Helped us out a lot with setup before the tournament. Jimmy McGrath, John Pinero, two of my old school favorite guys on that team. Belair Geron's a good young player. The Dadas, they got a lot of players. And that T kid, Greg, in goal,
Yeah, he was great.
lights out. They better hold on. They better sign that. Dennis Jelsic better sign that guy today. I mean, he's a great goalie. And, they're right there again, another team that I think maybe you trim a little bit of the fat and you find one or two, then you're there. It's just that I think most teams, they can hang the first line and maybe a little bit of the second, it's that third line. Like you got to be able to hang 3 lines deep in the Palmer Pro Division. That's what a Black Ice or a Snipers or, some of the top teams, they could do that. They can hang with 3 lines where if you're falling off after your 1.5 lines, that second half is a big drop, you're going to struggle in these long games. Do you agree?
Yeah, I was just going to say in these long games, especially, you need 3 lines going. Bottom line, it's a long game, it's a long tournament, and they're physical games, so it takes a lot out of you. You need 3 lines that can last and go the distance. But yeah, they really need to keep that T kid. Hopefully, he can sign another year contract with Iska, and that'd be huge for them. Hopefully they can keep him on their roster.
Let's talk the Palmer Beta Golden Knights a little bit here. So obviously, coming into the tournament, they were my number 1 pick for the tournament. They went out to tours, and I thought they were going to steamroll everyone there, and they wound up losing the finals to Car Shield, but they still look good. And then coming to State Wars, you see their roster, but again, when a Travis Snow is not on the roster and a Brett Ollinger, there's some other guys, but they're not really ever they don't really come really ever. Those are the 2 big losses to me. You got arguably a top 5 forward in the sport and a top 5 D in the sport missing. It's going to be tough, but that first game they lost to Envious Rinkrat 5-2 is trying to start setting the stage for Rinkrat a little bit there. Then they beat Liberty. They lost, I think it was a shootout to Black Ice, which was one of the best games of the tournament. Those 2 teams always have great games.
Yeah.
Then they lost to the Mudcats. They get into the playoffs, and we had to play them in the quarterfinals that morning. And, we got to jump on them really early, which, we'll talk about our team later about how our team can go in either direction. But if our team, when I say our team, the Snipers, when we score quick, you can see the confidence rise and we get going. But when we don't, it goes the other way for us. And we're very immature like that as a team. And, we got a couple quick. I think Siggy scored 10 seconds into the game, I think, against them there. A beautiful goal. And we got going, and they never caught back up. But Palm will be back stronger than ever. Again, it was a weird year for everybody. And they were one of the teams most affected by everything going on and missing some key guys. So they're a team you can never count out.
Yeah, it's a real big blow to them losing Travis Snow. I feel like a lot of the play, evolves around him. He's the nucleus to that team. But guys did step up. They're big pickup. Scotty Savage, he led the way. I think he had, let's look here. He had 6 points. He led the team, led the charge. And then, Ethan Chavera, John Seamer, Junior Cadiz all put home some points. But, Jerry Osterkamp really stepped it up, as an old timer, played some good hockey. I just felt like they weren't deep enough. Obviously for obvious reasons, they were missing guys. But, Tommy didn't have his strongest tournament, I didn't think. The whole layoff, not playing as much, it kind of kills everyone. So, Travis Bokina came in a little late. I don't think he got his legs going right away. I think he left his legs in Aruba for a couple games. But, overall, I thought he played great. I think Daniel Echeverria from Florida, who is Colombian, he always plays great, man. That kid can skate. He's a smart player out there. Plays a great role for Palma. Plays both ends of the rink. Just a really smart player. So I think he's a real good player as well. Garrett Haar obviously always plays solid. Just a great defenseman, always has awesome breakout passes, and he plays a controlled game. He's a smart hockey player. And Jordan Thomas as well. He can play the game. He knows how to score. He knows how to play. He's patient. But they just didn't have enough to get over that top. They struggled at times, and I think they looked tired to me and hurt. So, we'll definitely see a better Palma team next year after quarantine year. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely disappointing for them to lose some of their big players before the event. It's always great seeing Steve Oleski too. He plays such a solid role for Palma on the back end, and he'll bury his goals as well. But they just didn't have enough to get over that hump this tournament. So.
Nobody comes dressed to the arena better than Steve Oleski. He is dialed in, looking sharp. Love the guy. Great hockey player, great person. Love to have him on the pod a few months ago.
Yeah, he's phenomenal on the pod.
But yeah, no, just another guy loves the game. Let's talk a little bit. Let's talk snipers, I guess, real quick. And I just like you, I always feel funny talking about our own team. It's not something I like doing. Obviously, we had a decent tournament. We were the number 1 seed going in. We lost a tough game to the Roadrunners in our 4th round robin game, which kind of got them going, I believe. It was one of those tough games for our team. Game didn't matter to our team. We had the number 1 seed no matter what. They, at the time, thought they needed to win to get in. But it just shows the immaturity of our team a little bit, not always being focused and whatnot. And comes back to bite you in the long run. And they came out. I thought Keith Johnson played amazing against us, as he did all tournament long. And then we came out the next day, obviously had a good quarterfinal matchup, and we had some internal team issues before our semifinal, which I'm not going to get into really here, but definitely guys were not focused moving forward. And a lesson learned from our guys as far as you can't go play a team like Black Ice not being ready to play, and they are. They're too good for that.
Yeah, every team had injuries, and they were missing players. But like you stated earlier, losing Charlie Combs, a couple days before the event, that hurts us. Especially, he's a great goal scorer, Charlie, but he plays our system very well, and he's a great team player, and he had a phenomenal tours from what I hear. And then, his roller hockey summer got cut short because he had to go back to college and train. But, picking up Josh Dunn was a huge pickup, I thought. He filled some good shoes. He's a big boy. He hasn't really played a lot of roller hockey lately, but, Josh played some awesome minutes for us, battled, just a big boy, and, fit in well. Obviously losing Tommy Brusso's couple games because of an injury, and we didn't have it. We didn't have enough to win this year. Obviously we put ourselves in a good spot, but at the end of the day, we just didn't have enough to beat Black Ice in that semifinal.
Yeah, big shout out from our team, I think, was Troy Redmond. I thought Troy had an incredible tournament. He was our MVP of the division for us. Played awesome, as he did at tours as well. Watching the Carsfield team play, he played out there for them, and I think he proved once again that in my opinion, he's the best goaltender in the division, and he proved it. And he deserved more from our team. Yeah. So I've got to do a better job of what I do, and the players got to do a better job of what they do. And we'll be back again in 2021, stronger and better and more hungry again. Seems like that's been our thing. We win one, we lose next year. We win, we lose. We haven't been able to break that cycle yet. So hopefully we could keep that pattern going next year and come strong in Missouri with the Snipers.
Let's hope so. And honestly, we didn't really, we lost Rowan Porter before the event. Obviously he's not a huge name guy, in the division, but he brings a lot to our team. He brings the energy. He brings the energy in the locker room, and he would have helped out big time for sure. And I think that's, we'll get into Black Ice now. And I think Derek Schultz, he really brought that to Black Ice. He was the energy guy for them. He was, he played some great hockey, scored a big goal in the championship. But he's there. He's a big energy guy, and I think that really helped out Black Ice in route to victory.
One of our main scorekeepers, I forgot to mention earlier, Jeremy McCoy was back with us this year, the big worm. So he did a great job, and he said that Steve Oleski, such a great guy, gave a kid a stick after one of the first games, and the kid and his dad were at every game after. So just an example of Steve Oleski. But yeah, big worm, shout out to him. He did a great job on the mic. What I love about Jeremy, Greg, is when you talk to him, his voice is one way, and then he gets on the mic and he's like Barry White, like his voice is totally different, and he's got such a great voice on the mic. And I'm hoping we'll have him back in the Lou next year on the mic for the Palmer Pro Division, because he does a phenomenal job. So shout out to the big worm.
Big perm.
But let's talk about the champs. Mission Black Ice. You can't ignore that team. I know Jay Muro will play coy a little bit and talk about, they're struggling and the team's over and all that. And I think that's just his way of playing head games or whatever with his own guys. But they struggled a little bit in the round robin. They find ways to win. They beat Liberty 3-2 in the shootout. They beat the Mudcats 4-3. They beat Palma 4-3. Then they lost to the Mudcats 4-3. They beat Palma 4-3, and then they beat Envious 5-2. But then they got going, and I thought our game was pretty evenly matched with them. If you go back and watch, I think you could have went either way. But the quarterfinal and the championship, they dominated. The quarters, we talked about the 8-1 win over Rink Rat, but even the championship, it wound up being 5-2, but it was never really much of a game, really, watching it. The Black Guys they were in it to win it, and you look at that team, they added a phenomenal goal scorer in Cal Kafuk to the team, who wound up winning MVP. So he had a great playoff, and a great championship game, and a great deflection goal. And then you got players like Kraft and Pascali and Tiffenworth, DiMartino. You got all the regulars, like who they are. But I thought John Healy had a good turn. It was great seeing John Healy out there. He's always a favorite of mine. Played for the Snipers back in the day. I coached him when he was 8 and under. Saw his dad out there, which was awesome. I haven't seen him in years. But to me, the MVP of their team, once again, is Chinny. Mike Machinsky, very underrated goalie. I've seen it firsthand for Team USA in Barcelona last summer, how he could step it up in a game. And, if you go back and watch some of those games early in our semifinal game, Chinny really stepped it up. And he comes to play when the big games are on the line.
He does. And we witnessed that firsthand, obviously, like you said, last summer. But Chinny played great, especially against our team in the semifinal. He was lights out. A couple times I'm like, wow, this is a goal. And then all of a sudden, Chinny standing on his head, saving stuff, all sorts of his body. But he was great. But they're so deep, and they came out for a win this year. They had just mentality. Their mentality was just spot on this tournament, and came with energy. They just, all their pieces to the puzzle, such as Nate Gerger, who doesn't put up a ton of points, but he's one of their top players. He quarterbacks the play. Matt Gerger, obviously, Kozlo. They just play a great game. They play a smart system, and everyone contributes at some point. So, they're just so deep, and they're familiar with one another. So
they were so whole. They were so whole, Greg. They had majority of their team at tours.
Yeah.
They have their team there, and they could pick up a Kafuk. I know they were missing Shabo, but they had Kafuk, which to me is kind of like a wash, right? You had a Kafuk now, and and they're, as you saw, you were down at Rapid Fire skating. Their top guys were skating like 3 nights a week before. Like, they wanted this, and hats off to those guys to really want it and bring it. A guy like KJ is that leader on the team. We talked about it before, and kudos to those guys for really bringing it this year and letting people know that, hey, Black Ice isn't going away just yet.
Exactly.
So. Let's talk about that arena a little bit and that floor. Everyone I talked to, Greg, so Stillman is a new sponsor of ours. They supplied the floor of the tournament. That's, now our floor at State Wars Hockey, that'll be the floor used every year in the Palma Pro division. The feedback I got from everybody under the sun was the best floor they ever played on. Love the speed of it, whatnot. What did you think about the floor?
Yeah, I've skated on the floor for years. Playing at the Fears World Championships and playing overseas in Europe. I've been skating on that floor for a long time. I think the last couple of years they kind of upgraded it, but I loved it. Especially playing pro on that rink and playing at the arena. Thought it was really cool. Personally, I wish we would have used the still mat puck on the still mat surface. I think the rocket puck's great, but I just think the floor fits better with the still mat puck. Obviously it was made for that.
And we'll make that announcement now, Greg, that next year, Palma Pro Division, we will be using the still mat puck on that still mat floor. So teams now have a year's notice to practice with it. And we can help them get pucks and get used to that puck, because on that floor is definitely the puck to use for sure.
Yeah, no, for sure. What did you think of the rink playing on it?
I got to play one game in it and I loved it. I mean, obviously I'm not moving like you guys move out there anymore, but I thought it was phenomenal. The speed of it, to be able to skate and not worried about, sometimes when you play on a rink and you're already worried about slipping a little bit, you kind of take a little bit off. The players, I felt like, could just skate like they're on ice and not think about it. And you didn't see anyone slipping. And the puck, the movement of the puck just flies out there. It's just another level, and then it helps. It's brand new and it's clean and it's one color, and that'll be a good thing. That's a floor that we have. It got wrapped up and it's not going to come out again until State Wars next year. So it'll be in pristine condition every year for that Palma Pro Division. Yeah,
no, it's awesome. Hopefully we can get our hands on a couple more. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'd love to make it where every floor was like that. Some have asked what makes it different. It's got a little bit of a grip to it, and it's just whatever it's made out of. I think it's made when you pick up the tile, it's a little thicker and a little stronger feeling. So and then the remember how hard it was to pull up when I had to break out that tile that Billy Pascali had broke with his stick. We had to pull that tile up. It was so hard to get that tile up. They're a little bigger and stronger, and the seams are just so tight.
Yeah.
So when you skate on a sport court or a Mataflex or walk on them, you feel them kind of shuffle under your feet a little bit. There's no movement there. It's so tight and seamless that I think it makes for just a better play on the floor.
It looks like a sheet of ice. When you walk in, you don't really see the creases of the Mataflex. It's just a seamless floor, and it looks pretty, and it skates nice. And I think everyone who skated on it would agree. It's definitely an awesome floor.
Yeah, no, and Stoll's the same way. Everything's the same. It just plays off better. And World Championships, they're going to use the best there as well. So great floor. I would love to eventually have it where all three floors of State Wars are on that. But for now, it's definitely our main arena. Will be that floor. We'll use that puck for the pro division only to start, and we'll go from there. It's a little bit heavier, not as heavy as an ice puck, but it's a little heavier. So I don't know how the kids would like it as much, but it's and we love the rocket puck on the regular floors, but on this floor, it definitely plays better, I think. And I know you tested both pucks the night before, and it was moving faster and whatnot, and it sits better on it. They told me that they have a little bit of a I forgot what they called it, but a little bit of a slip grip or whatever on their puck that they install on it to keep it down more or whatever. I don't know, I'm not a scientist, but they said it's better for the floor. And I saw that as we whipped some pucks around to see the difference of pucks waffling or not. Sometimes it's harder to make sauce passes and one-timers with the roller hockey puck. This puck made it sit down a little bit better. So I think it would definitely help that regard and make the game a little truer.
Yeah. No, like I said, it'd be nice to have 3 of those floors. So hopefully in the future we'll be able to have more.
John Gellerman did a shout out there about the live streaming and whatnot. Yeah, so a big shout out. Thank you, John. We take a lot of pride in the streaming of this product, the Palma Pro Division, the multi-camera angles, the live stream. I thought it was pretty cool at the arena when you were there, Greg, where the stream was going on the screen the whole time. And then if there was a goal, you could look up like an NHL player and watch the replay on the screen of something that just happened in your game. So that was pretty cool. And then obviously the play-by-play of downtown and Trefty the whole time just makes the game that much better. You know, I know the Wheel Talk guys were there. You know, Coach D and the boys were there up there doing some extras. Wheel Talk during the Palmer Pro Division. I know Roll of Dad News always does some coveraging for us or whatnot. So we thank you to those groups that do a lot for the sport. But yeah, overall, I thought the Palmer Pro was, I'll never say it was the best ever because we're missing some guys, but I thought it might have been the most complete tournament for that division we've had, considering everything, the arena, the floor, the closeness of the games, and some of the lower teams stepping up even more this year. I think it was a tighter division for sure.
Yeah, it was very competitive. Like you said earlier on, you know, every game was pretty close, and a lot of the lower end teams, you know, they hung their own in their own. You know, they played well, and they you know, they proved why they should be in the division. So it's good to see. You know, we're gonna definitely have our hands full trying to figure out the last couple spots for next year.
You know, one thing I've been playing around in my mind, I haven't even told you this yet, that I would love to do in the future was I would love to personally coach a team, a second team in the division, and call it almost like a future stars team.
Yeah.
And where I handpick some of the next best players that aren't playing yet, you know, 04s or 03s or whatnot in the game, and just take an all young team, you know, an all-star team, if you will, from State Wars and those other divisions, and coach them in the tournament and just see how they would do out there. I mean, they may not win a game, but I bet, especially as we talked about earlier, how the games are called a little bit, that benefit almost to the young guys and the speed. I think it would be kind of fun to watch a all young team out there play, kind of like the NHL did a few years ago in the, I don't know if it was a Canada Cup or whatever they called it, where they had that North American team and whatnot, something like that.
Yeah, that'd be cool too. Yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be really cool.
Let me get Coach Tambo out there to help out with that, you know,
Yeah.
the USA junior coach.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I also think it'd be a cool idea just to maybe, you know, after round robin play, you know, for the teams who didn't qualify for playoffs, maybe battle it out, you know, for the right to come back for next year. I think that'd be cool too. I know we talked about that in the car.
Yeah.
But, you know, we just got to figure out a good way to do it.
Qualification games. Yeah.
Yeah, like a qualification game to get in for next year.
I saw Tom Simon just made a comment online. It made me think of him too. I want to shout out to Tom Simon also, who drove from Michigan out to Fort Wayne a few days earlier to help us with the cutting the floor and the corners and stuff at the arena. So a big shout out to Arsenal Construction's finest, Tom Simon, for helping out with that. But yeah, you know, so many people, Greg, that we've thanked and so much has gone on to this year. But I think the people we need to thank the most out of everyone are the coaches, the managers, the parents, the players, because that's what makes State Wars what it is every year, but especially this year. You know, I think a lot of people probably went into this year, you know, everyone's got different feelings about the virus and the politics of it all and how safe things are to do and whatnot. And I won't get into the politics and stuff, but it's been a crazy year for everybody. But you know, a big thank you to everyone for believing in us and wanting to be there, because, you know, it is a different year. And I really do believe that a lot went into it. It was definitely the most stressful year for us from a tournament perspective, having to move locations from Michigan to Indiana, to always not knowing if something's going to change. I think I must have typed in COVID Indiana into my Google search 3,000 times in the last month. So it was definitely a stressful time for everybody. And, you know, a big shout out to, you know, my wife and kids at home for putting up with it. You know, your girl at home, pregnant, throwing all this. It's not easy dealing with all of it. But a thank you to all our fans, friends, families that were there, teams, coaches, managers, because again, we're nothing without you guys. And thank you for making this arguably the best year ever for us, and definitely a tournament we'll never forget.
Yeah, thanks for trusting us. You know, it was very stressful coming in. Like Tim said earlier, we had no idea what to expect from the rink. You know, obviously they could talk about what they're going to do and how they're going to do it, but to actually put everything on paper, you know, and actually come through and do everything they said was just remarkable. And, you know, we just have great partners in Fort Wayne. And I also want to thank the city of Fort Wayne as well. You know, they're such huge supporters. You know, Stephanie and Bethany, they just do such an awesome job at, you know, checking in and just making sure everything's going well for the event. And they're just huge supporters of ours. And, you know, just thank you so much.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about our sponsors. And, there's been a lot of changes in the industry, Greg. It's some
Yeah, there has
things
been.
going on in the sport. Maybe we'll touch on next week. It's too much to talk about today, but, a big shout out to our sponsors, Mission Bauer, Tour Hockey, Warrior, Alkali, Stillmat, Conix, Lebeda, Rink Rat, Car Shield, which really stepped up. And thank you to Car Shield. They really stepped up big time with our pro division this year. And it was
Car Shield
apparent with all
Safety.
the video footage we had of a Car Shield. I got to see the Pat Maroon Car Shield commercial numerous times there, which was great.
Sarah Beer's in it as well.
Yeah, Sarah Beer's on the Zamboni, right?
Yeah.
Monkey Sports, who does a lot for us as well. The Roll of Dad News, Jord Watches had some sharp MVP awards, watches for our MVPs.
The older
Top
age
Shelf
groups.
Targets.
Yeah.
Who'd you say, Greg?
For the older age groups, they did.
Yeah, for our older ones, they did some watches, as they always do for the adult divisions. Rocket Puck. And I think I just said Top Shelf Targets, who are part of our accuracy contest and the skills comp. But all those guys that chip in, I know this year was a crazy year for them. Other than Rink Rat, no one was set up at the tournament or anything. But thank you to them for all their time and energy going into this. And I know it's crazy with everything going on. The inline companies have done really well during this COVID. People are buying skates more and more and wheels and whatnot online. And I think it's shown everybody that, ice hockey is contingent on what's going on in the world. If rinks aren't open, you can't play that game, unless you live in Alaska maybe. But here, inline, you can go out on a tennis court on any given day and go skate around and play with your buddies. So inline hockey is a sport that is pandemic free, I guess you would, Greg.
Yeah, you can play it anywhere. We saw it firsthand during shutdown. You went out there, skated a little bit, and play anywhere. So
No, great stuff. But it's great getting back on the podcast here today. We thank everybody for tuning in and chiming in on some stuff. And sorry for the delay on this, going on Facebook instead of YouTube. I love to hear some feedback later on what's better, being on Facebook or YouTube. So my darn passwords wouldn't work, and still trying to figure that out for next time. But we'll be back on next week. We'll start covering some of the other divisions. We have the 09s division, the 08s, the 07s. Those we got want to work all the way up to our oldest divisions. And we'll talk a little about maybe some shakeups in the industry, some crazy things going on in the sport right now that we love to talk about next week. But thank you guys for tuning in to Glass Half Full Productions, State Wars Hockey Podcast.
thanks for coming on, guys. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.